Welcome to the Talk with Taylor. My name is Taylor Anthony, and today I will be your host. We have a special guest joining us, Melissa Knowles. Melissa currently works as a pop news anchor on Morning Express with Robin Meade, and today she will be sharing her journey to success as a broadcast journalist, insights on having a career in the media, and advice from me as an aspiring broadcast journalist myself. Melissa Knowles, everyone.
Here we are. So
Yes.
nice to meet you. Oh,
Hi, Melissa. My first question for you. What made you decide to major in communications to become a broadcast journalist?
I really feel that I didn't decide to major in broadcast journalism or to focus my undergraduate studies on communications. I think it chose me. From a very early age, I was always interested in reading, writing, learning, hearing people's stories, and then retelling those stories. And it felt very natural for me to choose a profession that would involve things I'm good at.
Great.
So listening is one of those big traits. I felt like when I was a little kid, my mom really honed in that skill for me. Are you listening, Melissa? Are you listening? And my mother is retired now, and she was a lawyer for a number of years prior to going to law school. She was a social worker, and she also has a master's in English. And growing up, I would have to write book reports that were due for her. They weren't due for class. It was just, we go to the library this weekend, you check out your 10, 15 books. Yes, I did check out that many. You read all these books. This is like second, third grade. And then you choose one of them and you write a book report on it. So it, at the time, oh, I thought it was awful. I was so frustrated by my mom wanting me to write for her. What I didn't realize at the time was that I was really writing for me. I was learning a skill set that a number of my classmates hadn't even jumped into yet or hadn't even tried yet. And it just became a natural part of my existence and wanting to know something. Anytime I asked my mom a question, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Or what is that? Her first answer would be, look it up. So I got into the habit of looking things up when I was curious, my curiosity is still very big. And, when it comes to why I chose to be a journalist or why I chose to be a broadcaster, it really did choose me. I just went with what was in my skill set already. And I felt that broadcast journalism really enhanced that.
In your early years in the field, what were some of the challenges you faced starting out in the industry?
I think that I show up as me every single day. And I think that I have the determination and the drive to do my job no matter the circumstances. Early on in my career, I don't believe that I was as confident in my abilities professionally. And I think that came across in how I read copy, in how I just appeared in front of the camera. I think it took a lot of time to get comfortable being myself, because they're always like, oh, just pretend like you're talking to your friend. It's your friend on the other side of the camera. It's like, but it's not. There's a bunch of lights in here, and that camera doesn't look anything like my friend. So I think that I had to get to a point where I was just comfortable being Melissa Knowles in front of the camera. And I think what that took was repetition, lots of practice, and relaxing. I think that early in my career, if I made a mistake, I allowed that mistake to linger for way too long. Or if I happened to be upset about something that had nothing to do with work, sometimes I would bring that with me to work, into the studio, in front of the camera, and you could see it all over my face. Whereas now, if I'm having a horrible day, no one would ever know unless I decide to tell you, right? So, but I think as being a young Black woman, being worried about, like, is my hair okay? I had to learn how to do my own makeup, because early on, especially when you're first starting out, now I didn't start out in local news. A lot of young up and coming broadcasters do start out in smaller markets. I was very fortunate in that my first job was national, and I
Right. Huge.
continued to do
Great.
national and regional and international. I've been very fortunate, and I know that, very blessed. However, there were still things that, because I didn't start out at the local level, that I had to learn on my own. I had to figure out, okay, what colors look best on me in front of the camera. Nobody ever really told me that. I don't really feel like, at least when I was in broadcasting school, no one really there wasn't a class on, okay, you need to wear this, you need to look this way. I think those were kind of
Different.
secondary to like newsworthiness, how to tell a story, how to gather the facts, how to build a list of sources. There's so much that you have to learn, the basics, that I think that sometimes they being professors and other people who are a part of the journalism schools, at least where I went, weren't necessarily teaching what you need to look like. And if this is a visual medium, which it is, that part's important too. And I think that learning how to make sure my hair looked good and all those things, just being comfortable in my own skin, was the biggest challenge in the beginning for me. But I've overcome that by just, I mean, age, time, and practice.
So, did you have a mentor that really played a crucial role in your developing career?
You know, there were a number of people who I would say I looked up to. The person who comes to mind is Renee Seiler. Renee Seiler used to be a local news anchor at, I think she was at WFAA, the Channel 8, the ABC affiliate. I'm pretty sure it was the ABC affiliate in Dallas. So I looked up to her for a while. Then she was thrust into network news, and they moved her to New York, and she was at CBS This Morning, which was, and at the time I think it was named something else, because you know how they change the names of the morning shows here and there. But Renee Seiler was the first person who I saw who I thought, wow, she looks like me. Like I could actually do this. I could see myself for the first time at a network level once I saw Renee Seiler. Obviously Oprah. Everybody would say Oprah,
Yeah.
right? The OG. And Gail King. I mean, there's so many women and men who have helped me, who've been instrumental. I would also say at the local level, JD Miles. He's a local reporter, investigative reporter in Dallas. Oh my gosh, he let me shadow him every day. Again, I think he's the one who dubbed me the intern who would not leave. He let me shadow him every day the summer of 2003. I mean, I had like a weird, like Batman type of uh, tan on my face, weird tan lines, because I wore my sunglasses every day. It was the summer, and I held a reflector for him during his live shots. So I was like, with the reflector. But because I showed him that I was willing to show up whatever, whenever news broke, because you can't control that. And I was willing to go get his coffee, carry the tripod for our photographer, whatever needed to be done. So he would teach me and show me the ropes for real, for real. I earned his respect. He certainly had mine from the very beginning. And I would say that he was really instrumental in helping me to pursue this as a passion and as a profession.
So, what's your favorite event that you have covered during your career?
My favorite event, like ever, that I've covered? Okay, I usually give this answer because, I mean, it's true. It's the first thing that comes to mind. The Olympics, 2012. I lived in London for all of the Olympics in 2012, and I worked for, at the time, Yahoo News and Yahoo Sports. And just to have been a little girl watching the Olympics on TV, and then to be there in real life watching like an Olympic event, like there's nothing that compares to that. I've covered Super Bowls, I've covered live football, basketball, professional sports, and all of those are exhilarating and fun, but there is nothing like being in the village with the athletes. And I don't know, that was, you can tell now, like that was
Yeah.
8 years ago, but it was just the most fun. It was also the most exhausting. One, I'm in London, so several hours time difference. And yes, you get used to it after a while, but your girl is an East Coaster, sometimes Central time zone. But I found it to be challenging because, I mean, Olympic events, when you're watching back at home, you could turn it on at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the morning, and there's an event happening, right? I had to cover events like 17-hour days for 2.5 months. Like, it was a lot, but it was the most fun. And living somewhere else, that was a lot of fun too. And my favorite part of my job is just that I get to be me. I get to be myself every day. I think that kind of goes back to one of your earlier questions, and just finding the confidence to just be Melissa and tell stories as if I'm speaking to a friend, just as you and I are speaking right now. This is how I am on TV. I bet some of my family members are probably like, yeah, she's a little too TV all the time. But yeah, covering the Olympics was by far the most favorite event that I've ever been a part of. And just getting to be myself. That's my favorite part of my job.
So, what does a typical workday, work week look like for you?
So a typical work week, I usually work Monday through Friday. I have to be camera ready by 6 a.m. every day, and we're live on Morning Express from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m.
Okay.
My first alarm, I always say my first alarm because I always have a backup just in case
Yeah, no, I
the
understand.
first one doesn't go off, right? So I do that thing with your Apple Watch and your phone where you can set, it tells you what time you should go to bed because it knows what times you need to wake
Right.
up. So my alarm goes off about 3:15 every morning. And first thing I do in the morning is give gratitude. And then after giving gratitude, I look at all of my emails, which there are always a lot, especially now,
Yeah.
this during the pandemic and during election season. So I get caught up and then I read the news and see what I missed overnight. And then I'm out the door and to work. And I spend the next 4 hours making sure that America is informed about what's happening in pop culture.
So, as a young woman hoping to one day obtain a career in the media, what advice are you able to give me as I finish up my next 2 years of college?
Biggest piece of advice that I would give you is to know exactly who you are. Know what you want. And if you don't know everything that you want, that's okay. Maybe have a couple of things that you know you want out of your career and out of your profession. And know what you don't want, because that is just as important. And I would say if you're planning to be in front of the camera, it is so important to know what your colors are, what looks good on you, to practice doing your own makeup, not overdoing it, but like know what your look is, like establish like this is my look, okay, like and be comfortable with that. Your speaking voice sounds really good right now. I would work on speaking a little bit more slowly and bringing your pitch down.
Okay.
I would work on that. Working on your pitch and slowing down has a lot to do with breathing. That is the biggest technique that a lot of people who are on television who sound good um, do well, is they know when to breathe and when to pause appropriately. Find your perfect nude lipstick. What I mean by that is just something that looks subtle, like the one that I have on right here. This one works for me. There is certainly at least one that will work really well for you. Find that. But work on having your look down, and then that won't be something that you're focused on later. That won't be something that, like, if you have that, if you have your look down, that'll make you look more polished, and when you look back at it later, you'll feel a little bit more polished too.
Thank you so much for all your advice, Melissa, and thank you for taking the time to meet with me again.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Stay tuned, everyone. See you next weekend.